Picture this. You're standing in a store, looking at two pairs of shoes. One costs €30 and will fall apart in 3 months. The other costs €150 but will last for years. Which do you choose? If you're like most people, there's a voice in your head saying, the expensive one is wasteful, or I don't deserve to spend that much on myself. But what if I told you that this voice, this internal resistance to investing in yourself, might be one of the most psychologically damaging patterns you can develop? Welcome back to Psychology with Sergiu Popovici, where we explore the science behind human behavior and what it means for your life. Today, we're diving deep into something that goes against everything you've probably been taught: the psychology of self-investment. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the money you invest in yourself isn't just worth it. It's actually one of the most rational, scientifically supported decisions you can make. Let's start with temporal discounting, our brain's tendency to value immediate rewards more highly than future ones. When you choose the cheap shoes, you're prioritizing €30 today over long-term quality and durability. But here's where it gets interesting. Research by psychologist Hal Hirschfield at UCLA shows that when people think about their future selves, the brain regions that activate are the same ones that activate when thinking about strangers. Your future self is literally a stranger to your brain, which is why investing in that stranger feels wasteful. People who develop what Hirschfield calls future self-continuity make dramatically better decisions about health, finances, and personal development. They understand something crucial. Investing in yourself isn't spending money, it's transferring value to someone you're going to become. Now let's talk about how spending shapes your identity. Researchers at Harvard Business School found that purchases don't just reflect who we are, they actually shape who we become. When you consistently buy cheap, low-quality items, you're sending yourself a message about your worth and what you deserve. Your brain processes these patterns and incorporates them into your self-concept. When you invest in quality food, clothes that make you feel confident, or experiences that expand your perspective, you're actively constructing an identity of someone who values themselves. This is about psychological architecture, the framework you build for understanding who you are. Studies on nutrition show that food quality directly impacts cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and decision-making ability. A study in the British Journal of Psychiatry found that people who ate whole, nutrient-dense foods had significantly lower rates of depression compared to those who ate processed, low-quality diets. The same principle applies to clothing through what researchers call enclothed cognition. In one study, participants who wore a white coat they believed belonged to a doctor performed better on attention tasks than those who wore the same coat but thought it belonged to a painter. Your clothing fundamentally alters your cognitive performance and self-perception. Now let's talk about experiences versus material purchases. Psychologist Thomas Gilovich at Cornell has spent decades studying what makes people happy, and his findings are revolutionary. Experiential purchases travel, learning new skills, dining at new restaurants, provide more lasting happiness than material purchases. When you travel to a new place, you're expanding your cognitive schemas, challenging assumptions, and literally rewiring your brain through novel experiences. Neuroscience research shows that novel experiences activate the hippocampus and dopamine reward circuits, strengthening memory formation and learning. You're not spending money on experiences. You're investing in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections and adapt. And this brings us to compound growth in personal development. Everyone understands compound interest in finance, but most people don't apply this logic to personal investment. When you invest in better nutrition today, you have more energy tomorrow, which helps you make better decisions, which leads to better outcomes, which creates more opportunities. Quality clothes that make you feel confident change how you show up in interviews and social situations, opening doors that wouldn't otherwise exist. Experiences that challenge you develop resilience and skills that compound throughout your entire life. A study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who regularly invest in self-improvement show accelerating rather than linear growth in well-being. The returns compound, the investment grows, your capacity expands. Now the shadow side. What happens when you don't invest in yourself? When you consistently choose the cheapest option, you develop what Carol Dweck calls a scarcity mindset, a pervasive sense that there's never enough. Brain imaging studies show that scarcity reduces cognitive capacity, leading to worse performance on IQ tests and poorer long-term decisions. There's also decision fatigue. Constantly choosing between cheap options drains your cognitive resources. Roy Baumeister's research showed that this mental depletion leads to worse decisions in all areas of life, not just spending. The irony is that trying to save money by always choosing cheapest might be costing you far more in poor decisions and missed opportunities. Here's another critical insight: the relationship between self-investment and self-worth. Kristen Neff's work on self-compassion shows that people who treat themselves with kindness develop greater emotional resilience and mental health. Investing in yourself is an act of self-compassion, telling yourself, I'm worth this investment, my well-being matters, my growth is important. And here's where the psychology gets powerful. Behavior shapes belief just as much as belief shapes behavior. When you start investing in yourself, even in small ways, you internalize the message that you're worth investing in. Stanford psychologist B.J. Fogg found that small, consistent behaviors create identity shifts more effectively than big, dramatic changes. Every time you choose quality over cheapness, you're voting for a new identity. Now, this isn't about reckless spending or buying things you can't afford. Research shows that debt and financial stress are among the strongest predictors of poor mental health. The key is intentional investment, making conscious choices about where to allocate resources for maximum psychological return. A study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people who spend money aligned with their values show higher life satisfaction. It's not about spending more, it's about spending smarter in ways that compound. Let me share something from my own work with clients in psychological consultation. One of the most common regrets I hear is, I wish I had invested in myself sooner. Research on life regrets confirms this pattern. People's biggest regrets aren't things they did, but things they didn't do. Opportunities they missed because they were too cautious, too worried about the cost, too convinced they didn't deserve it. The antidote is simple. Invest in yourself now, not someday when you think you'll deserve it more. Here's something that might surprise you. Investing in yourself makes you better able to help others. Research shows that people with higher self-worth and better mental health show more genuine altruism and compassion. When you're depleted because you never invest in your own well-being, you have less to give others. The oxygen mask principle isn't just a metaphor, it's psychologically accurate. So what does this mean for your daily life? The question, is it worth it, is often the wrong question. The better question is this making me better? Is this food making me healthier? Is this clothing making me more confident? Is this experience expanding my perspective? When you shift from worth it thinking to making me better thinking, everything changes. You're no longer just a consumer trying to minimize costs. You're an architect actively constructing the person you want to become. Let me give you practical applications. First, start small with keystone habits, small changes that trigger cascading improvements. Maybe quality coffee instead of the cheapest option, and notice how it affects your morning mood. Second, track your investments and their returns, not just financially, but psychologically. Did that cooking class lead to better nutrition? Did those quality shoes make exercise more consistent? Third, practice future self-visualization. Spend time imagining who you want to become and what that person would need. Studies show this strengthens future self-continuity and makes present sacrifices feel more natural. And finally, give yourself permission to be worth investing in, to prioritize your growth, to believe that upgrading your life is psychologically necessary. The research is unambiguous. People who invest appropriately in themselves live longer, healthier, happier lives with fewer regrets. Before we close, let me address the fear of seeming selfish. There's a massive difference between narcissistic self-focus and healthy self-investment. Narcissism is about ego protection. Healthy self-investment is about growth and becoming your best self. People who invest in themselves from a growth mindset tend to be more generous and more contributing members of society. So if you've been holding back because you worry it's selfish, the science says you're wrong. Taking care of yourself and prioritizing your development isn't selfish, it's foundational to everything else good you want to do in the world. To wrap this up, the psychology of self-investment reveals something profound about human potential. We are dynamic systems capable of remarkable growth through intentional investment. Every choice you make about what to eat, wear, experience, and learn is a vote for who you're becoming. The question isn't whether you can afford to invest in yourself. The question is whether you can afford not to. Because the research is clear, investing in yourself isn't spending. It's the highest return investment you'll ever make. If you're struggling with self-worth, decision-making, or knowing where to invest your energy, I offer psychological consultation services in Munich, Germany, where we can work together on building the foundation for sustainable personal growth. Thank you for watching Psychology with Sergiu Popovici. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe for more research-backed insights into human behavior. I'll see you in the next video.